Hey guys, I'm Max Steinberg, and this is my brother Danny Steinberg, and we are partners here at SaberSim and Daily Fantasy Professionals. This video is the second video in our four-part course on beating daily fantasy basketball in 2019. In the first video, Danny and I walked through the basics of SaberSim's three-step build process to show you how to build better basketball lineups faster. If you haven't seen that yet, I check it out as it's the fastest way to get up to speed on the fundamentals of playing daily fantasy basketball. This video is a big, more advanced breakdown of the first step of that three-step process, showing how we do research and how we can use that research to adjust point and ownership projections. At the end of it, you'll be able to make your own adjustments using what you've learned and gain an extra edge on the competition. We'll be using SaberSim in this video, but this one in particular applies regardless of the tools you're using.
Yeah, so let's start by talking about how the traditional tools work, specifically lineup optimizers. As players get more comfortable with optimizers, they'll start making more adjustments to the projections, which is good, assuming you have a strong process like the one we're about to show you. But many make a significant mistake by defining exposure ranges for many of the players on the slate. You'll say something like, I want this guy a minimum of 25%, or I want this guy a maximum of 50%. And that's a backwards approach, because we don't have enough knowledge up front to make any sort of educated guess to make optimal lineups. People do this because they want control and they don't actually trust the optimizer to make the best lineups they should use. They try to create settings to jerry-rig an optimizer to do what they want it to do.
Yeah, but if you want to win at daily fantasy today and keep winning in the future, you need to eliminate as much guesswork as possible. You don't want to be the one actually building the lineups and crunching all the numbers like a lineup builder will do. To know who you want to get and how much you want to get them, you need to have a lineup builder that has a baseline process that takes in all of your knowledge and then spits out what the optimal lineups are based on that. And unlike traditional optimizers, you don't have to fight with SaberSim to get it to make smart winning lineups, because SaberSim was designed from the ground up to just help you do that.
Yeah, and we've built an incredibly advanced simulator that takes dozens of performance predictors and uses them to simulate every single game, play by play, thousands of times. And this gives us an incredibly detailed and accurate projections that go way beyond guessing which players and lineups have the highest upside or have the highest floor. The thousands of data points from these simulations let us accurately measure how players are correlated with one another and what their true variance looks like for a single game. This is data that nobody else has, and we're able to use that along with their ownership projections to build high upside lineups in just a few clicks. And rather than spending hours setting flawed rules of thumbs, you can let us do the heavy lifting, so you have more time to focus on areas where you can add value, like adjusting projections, which we'll talk about that in a second.
Yeah, so SaberSim has a great baseline of projections we can work off of. We build our point projections by feeding more than 12 performance indicators unique to each sport into our custom machine learning algorithm, which then simulates each game thousands of times, play by play. This lets us accurately project the average outcomes of games, but also gives us a true picture of a player's performance and how it can vary from game to game, which you can see a visual over data here. When it comes to ownership, we use a variety of signals to how popular a player will be. Then we feed those signals into another algorithm that actually simulates a large GPP, and the resulting exposures are what you see for our ownership projections, which you can find here. These processes incorporate statistics, matchups, splits, Vegas odds, and more, but we can't account for everything that matters in a game.
Yeah, I think when it comes to finding spots to improve our projections, there are essentially four places to look. You can use your gut or intuition. You can look at the news, which is very important, advanced statistics, or you may have tools you find elsewhere or build for yourself. If there is a close decision, using your gut to sway that decision one way or another can be okay, but you don't want to rely on it exclusively. Remember, we're trying to eliminate as much guesswork as possible. On the other end of the spectrum, building your own models or tools can be a great way to get an edge, and it's something many of the top pros have done. But if you're doing this as a way to make money on the side, I wouldn't even consider that. Even then, it's just nowhere near the lowest hanging fruit, especially when almost everybody watching this can avoid top pros entirely. So we made a video that covered the best tournaments to play to build a bankroll. If you missed it, be sure to check it out. But the short of it is players with more than 1 million in entry fees over the history of their accounts, like Max and I, cannot play in contests with buy-ins of less than $3. So these may sound like really small stakes, but the ROI you can achieve in these games is really large, and there are tons of players making a lot of money playing nothing but these small tournaments. So when you don't have all day to build lineups, let alone a computer science degree, you need to focus on things that are simple and efficient, but have a large effect on your bottom line. And there are two areas that fit that criteria: advanced statistics and staying up on the news.
Right. So first, let's talk about advanced statistics. To take advantage of these, you don't need to be able to do advanced math or anything like that. You just need to know what stats to look for and where to look for them. There's a lot of data actually out there that's completely free. And in this video, we're just only going to show you free data. And you can look to quantify this yourself. And actually, the NBA itself provides some of these really cool advanced statistics in this website called stats.nba, which you can just access by going to stats.nba.com. And they have a ton of statistics that they create themselves by using actually cameras on the court to track the players. And they have a lot of really, really cool data. I think it's definitely underutilized, and you can look at it to help assess team dynamics, especially early in the season or even in the middle of the season when players or teams have changed, or when there's a big injury, which is basically the crux of adjusting any DFS slate, is how do injuries impact the baseline projections. It helps you assess what players might be sort of overperforming their possession and their historical data, or, you know, as I said before, how the injuries might be impacting the team dynamics, right?
Yeah, sure. Okay, so let's look at news and injuries tonight and how we may use advanced statistics or stats at NBA to help us evaluate that.
Yeah,
So
let me just say something for a second.
Okay.
One free site that's great is Basketball Monster /playernews.aspx. They have a really good visual of just who's out on a given night, and it's usually a great starting point to just look at how injuries might affect the slate.
Right. Okay. So, let's look at one team tonight. So, Minnesota, we have a few guys who are doubtful and one guy is questionable. So let's look at, how are these injuries going to impact the given team? So we can look at a past game log. So Jeff Teague and Shabazz Napier have actually been out for a few games. So we can look at how the past game log data can help us understand how players may be affected by these injuries.
Right.
So one thing that stands out to me is the starting lineup that Minnesota used actually started Andrew Wiggins at point guard, which is not normally the position he plays. He normally plays shooting guard or small forward next to Jeff Teague. So one thing you can see from the player tracking data with stats.nba is his touches are actually really high. He has the highest touches on the team. That is another signal, basically, that, hey, he's playing point guard. And when a guy goes from shooting guard or small forward to playing point guard, that's a good change because it normally means probably he's going to get more assists, which you can see he got 5 assists last game. But he actually also got 3 secondary assists. That's where he made a pass that was just before the assisted pass.
Right, the pass led to an assist.
Right.
Yeah.
So basically, it's just another signal that, hey, he was close to getting more assists than the 5 he got. You can also see contested field goals is something I like for guards. You can see he had 11 contested field goals in this game, which means he was really trying hard to score, basically. He wasn't just left wide open all game. He was trying really hard to score. So that's something that's really going to be hard for SaberSim to capture, is exactly how these injuries are going to affect different players. But you can see if Teague and Napier are out like they were in this last game, you can really expect Wiggins to do really well. And SaberSim may, in fact, be under-projecting him.
Yeah, and I think, we're looking at what actually happened when these two have been out, because they've been out a while. But you can actually kind of predict who might be playing point guard or handling the ball by just looking in general at unassisted field goals, which is a stat that Danny and I look at a lot when trying to evaluate team dynamics. And as you can see, unassisted field goals are very straightforward. It describes it perfectly. It just means this person is scoring without someone giving him an assist to score. So what percentage of field goals does this player make that don't require someone giving an assist to do that? And as you can see, Jeff Teague and Shabazz Napier are the highest unassisted field goal getters on the team. This is usually true with point guards. So if you look down the list, you can look, okay, what players who are going to get minutes might sort of take over this role. And as you can see, Andrew Wiggins has 58% unassisted field goals, which means he probably is going to do a lot of the shot creating. And you can look at someone like Robert Covington, example, who a lot of places might give him a bump in usage and scoring based on this, but he really actually does not create his own shot. And what that means is he probably is not going to actually benefit as much from no point guard existing. He actually shoots quite a bit of threes. 60% of his field goals attempted are three-pointers. And this really is not going to, he's not going to, on a practical level, actually be shooting more because of this point guard injury.
Yeah, that's a good point. Those are fantastic points, in fact, I would say.
But I would also say that this is not a unique thing. You're going to see this a lot through the NBA season where there are a bunch of point guards who are injured, and they end up having this sort of influence where players like Andrew Wiggins, who have a reputation for like not creating his own shot and being pretty passive, actually end up creating his own shot a lot and having a great stretch of games like he has over the past 3 games.
Yeah, totally. So let's maybe look at a few more injuries and news and just talk about generally how to interpret them. So I think one thing that's kind of unique to NBA is that injuries, I think, are really the most impactful for NBA than any other sport, because when someone has time on the floor, they're going to get some fantasy points. Maybe it's like a rebound that randomly falls in the hand. Maybe they make a pass and someone scores and they get assists. Sometimes the opponent just throws the ball to you and you get a steal, right? If you get a lot of minutes, you're probably going to get a lot of fantasy points. So a lot of interpreting injury impact is interpreting who's going to get big minutes. So for example, like Charlotte, we have 2 shooting guards are out. So it may be that the point guards or shooting guards on Charlotte may get more minutes than we expected them to have. We have Joel Embiid out too. Someone's probably going to start for him and get some minutes. So he may, whoever his backup is may get a lot of fantasy points. I mean, really the most basic way to interpret the injury news is whoever plays the positions that the player's out plays is probably going to get more minutes. But it can be a little more nuanced than that for sure. Yeah,
and I think SaberSim is going to account for this pretty well, so you don't have to just worry about, oh my god, Dwayne Bacon is out, I need to fiddle with all of this, because we're actually going to do that for you. But what you're trying to do is figure out how it might affect people in a way that a model like SaberSim is not going to expect. And that's something that you can get into a little trouble if you assume, okay, whoever is starting at shooting guard for Charlotte is just suddenly going to get a ton of minutes, because a lot of times positions like shooting guard, small forward are pretty fluid, and we'll talk about this a little later. And you have to be careful of assuming that people are going to get too many minutes because they're replacing a starting shooting guard or small forward.
Right. I mean, a great example here would be, I think it's possible someone like Cody Zeller gets a lot of minutes here. He's a starter who isn't normally projected for that, or doesn't normally get a lot of minutes because they don't play him in crunch time.
Right.
But because of all the injuries this team has, and because Memphis plays so big with Jaren Jackson and Valanciunas, he may actually get more minutes than we would expect in this situation. And it actually seems like SaberSim is projecting him pretty high here. But
but we can
someone who I'd feel good about his minutes for sure.
I love that logic. I think the last thing that I want to get into and adjust for before we just talk about generalizations is offensive rebounding. Danny and I really love taking advantage of offensive rebounding matchups. And I think there's a great combination here that really sets up well for a player, which is Anthony Davis is out for the Lakers. And because of that, someone like Dwight Howard or other big men are going to get more minutes. He's a huge minute getter for the team. And as you can see, Dwight Howard and JaVale McGee are projected up. But one player in particular, I think, which is Dwight Howard, I think is great. He's a great offensive rebounder. And Golden State is actually a pretty small team, especially with all their injuries. They're not, they have no Steph Curry. They have no Klay Thompson. They play really small. They have Willie Cauley-Stein starting at center, and they have small guards. And their bench specifically is atrocious, right?
Yes.
And Dwight Howard, who might start, but he might actually come on the bench. But regardless, he's going to get big minutes. Is a great offensive rebounder, and if you just actually look at this free website called Team Rankings and look at opponent offensive rebounding percentage, you can see Golden State is near the top in the statistic. And I would guess that particularly their bench is really weak on offensive rebounding.
Oh yeah, because I think a lot of backup centers are out for them. I think Looney is one of them. They just have really small, like Marquise Chris is their backup center currently, and he's really like almost small for a power forward. So the Lakers will probably use Howard's size, maybe give him some post ups, and he'll also should get a lot of rebounds and blocks too. So I really like the matchup for him.
Yeah, and I think, lastly, let's just talk about adjusting ownership percentages in general. I think when you're looking at ownership, you want players who are going to be kind of buzzworthy, and when the over-unders are really high, people sort of attract to those players. So I think a guy like James Harden is like obviously a really big name. This over-under, I think, is in the 240 range or something absurdly high. So my guess is he's actually going to attract more ownership than we think. And we can adjust that up. You can see
another one.
Yeah, you can also just look.
Any popular name.
Right. Or you can even look at other websites or other people's Twitter and just see who are they talking about. If someone is touting a player, they're probably going to have high ownership. So that's something to look at as well. That's very true. And you can adjust these very, very easily. And it's a great way to get an extra edge by you taking advantage of our ownership fade slider, which we'll talk about in a new video. So those are a few things that we look at when adjusting, and we just want to get into generalization. So I'm just going to throw this to you about just best practices when making adjustments.
Yeah, so before wrapping up, here are just some of the best practices that I use when it comes to adjusting based on what you're seeing in the news and injuries. Remember, these are rules of thumbs, and they always have exceptions, so don't blindly follow this advice. But these will give you some quick shortcuts to keep in mind. Okay, so one is, I find that point guards are most affected by injuries. If you have a team that has a lot of point guard injuries, it becomes really likely that whatever point guard is left is going to get a lot of minutes and play a lot. And because point guards get assists and they touch the ball a lot, you tend to have people who are getting a lot of minutes who actually have some decent fantasy points per minute. So that tends to be a solid position to adjust up if it's affected by injuries. There's a good chance our projections will underrate that injury impact. Another thing I often think about is centers are more matchup dependent than other positions. We talked about this with Dwight Howard. So if someone has a really good matchup, they're facing some really bad team offensively and defensively, then that center's probably going to do pretty well, more so than the rest of the positions, I would say.
Yeah, and I'd say on the flip side, when we're talking about who you kind of want to worry about or be cautious about, I often get screwed by either being way too high on a random shooting guard, small forward, and power forward that I like a lot. And it's because they don't tend to be impacted as much by matchup, and they're just, in my experience, harder to predict than other positions because they're so fluid. So while it makes sense to adjust them based on news or God or any of the factors we talk about, I would definitely focus mostly on point guards and centers, which we did in this video. And I would definitely just give yourself less leeway with those positions specifically.
Yeah, here's another one in that same vein. Like when a center's out, often the backup centers aren't actually that good of players, and you can think like a starting center's out, okay, and there's only one center left on the team. Like he has to get 25 or 30 minutes. He's going to be great. But the reality is teams really like to go small often when they have a lot of injuries at center. So I wouldn't bank on some center, especially some scrub center, getting a lot of minutes. I just watch out for that personally.
Yeah.
I think the last thing I'd like to mention is just last second news. It takes some time we do it pretty fast, but SaberSim takes some time.
I would say we're actually one of the fastest out there as well.
Definitely.
Yeah.
But if a player is announced out like 10 or 15 minutes before the game starts or less, we may not be able to predict our model in time. So when there's last second injury news, you're going to have to remove whatever the injured player is from your player pool, and you should boost other players you think will be positively affected. So mostly, possibly if it's a starter, if it's going to start for him, or whoever you think will have a bigger offensive role, or you think may get more minutes.
Yeah, so I think these are great heuristics to keep in mind. So to summarize, we created SaberSim to help players like you build better lineups in less time using our 3-step process. First, you adjust our projections, then you dial in the sliders, and finally you have the quality control step, and we'll get into this in other videos. While you truly can get strong lineups in minutes, to maximize your ROI, you want to build on the foundation we've given you. You want to adjust projections yourself. And luckily, as this video has shown, it doesn't need to take all night. You don't need to pay for a lot of tools. There's a lot of free stuff out there. And all you need to do is focus on a few of the right spots and look at the advanced stats, look at the news, and you can adjust projections pretty well and get some players in your lineups that are going to be great for these tournaments. So we have 2 more videos coming up for the remaining steps of the build process, so be sure to check those out and really take your game to the next level. In our next video, we'll break down in detail the second step of the process, showing you how to dial in the build settings, specifically our 3 sliders to produce strong lineups for each of the common contest types. As always, if you have any questions, you can email the support team. That's support@sabersim.com, or reach out to us on Twitter. My Twitter handle is @MaxJSteinberg. Danny's is @DanielSingerS. And if these videos have piqued your interest and you want to try us out, you can actually try out SaberSim for free. We're offering a free 3-day trial, which you can find at SaberSim.com and just by signing up. So again, thanks for watching this video and good luck playing Daily Fantasy.